like what they're seeing and like, well, that's just boring. And then we see the picture that they took and like, wow, that's really cool.
We keep coming up with new exercises for ourselves, and this week is no different. We have a new exercise that we're going to start, even though we haven't necessarily figured out exactly what the mechanics of it are going to look like yet, or how we're going to be measured.
This is a discipline that we've seen in authors, in comedians, in photographers, and all sorts of artists in creative areas. And we've seen that it can help them be successful in those areas. And so we want to emulate that.
The idea for it came when we were looking at not exactly a pre-launch checklist, but a pre-launch checklist. The things, not necessarily what do you need to do to market your book in the 4 to 6 months before it's published, but even beforehand. Some of those things were about posting regularly to social media, and we realized, okay, well, we're posting as add placeholder text, but we're not posting as Steve or as Nathan. And it's become a challenge for us, even though we've seen people who do it well. I have a couple of friends from college that are doing this particularly well. They are both composers, musicians. They both have dogs, and those show up in their social media posts. One of them is also an author and an actor and a baker, and they both are able to find interesting and entertaining posts that just come out of their normal life. And their posts aren't necessarily speaking specifically about their creative works. And so our exercise, the goal of it, is to help us to emulate what we're seeing in some other people.
And I mentioned not only authors, but also photographers and comedians, and some of the ways that this mindset shows up in their work is for photographers, they need to find an interesting way of looking at something to make a good picture. Often we'll look at what they're seeing and like, well, that's just boring. And then we see the picture that they took and like, wow, that's really cool. Sometimes it's interesting stuff with perspectives, with maybe reflections, and they find something interesting in what we would see as not even worth taking a picture of. And there's also comedians who excel at finding those entertaining things in the mundane or even in the frustrating. There's one comedian whose bit I can think of that I actually repeated this bit, I think yesterday at work. I think his name is Kellen Erskine, and he's talking about people who leave their shopping carts in the parking lot and don't put them where they're supposed to go. And he says something like, "You're telling me you walked 3 miles through Costco, and the instant you got to your car, you went not another step further." It's an interesting mindset of finding the funny in what can be frustrating or what can be mundane.
You use the phrase finding the funny. One of the guys in my Toastmasters group, his name is Al Wiseman, and he wrote a book called Finding the Funny. That's the entire point of that exercise that we've been discussing, and so I'll let you share what that exercise is.
So yes, the specifics of that exercise, finding not necessarily the funny, but the entertaining, the interesting in the mundane. There's all sorts of things throughout our life that we often just walk right past or just go through our day and ignore because we don't see anything interesting or entertaining in it. And so our goal next week when we have our meeting, we're going to share with each other some of the interesting or entertaining things that we have found in the mundane over the past week, which is this coming week. So the purpose of that is to keep our minds on trying to find those things throughout this week so that we do have something to share when we meet again next week.
Knowing that we have a deliverable, hopefully that will keep our brains engaged, even if we don't necessarily have a specific number or a checklist or criteria for it. And not only for social media. I mean, yes, this is going to help us to be able to think about things that are interesting and entertaining to share on social media, but as storytellers, it's also a good discipline to help us make better stories. So the question for you this week is what are some things that you have found interesting or entertaining in what might otherwise be a mundane part of life? We look forward to reading what you share in the comments, and we will see you again next week.